Maddie will tell us.
Oh, here we go. Another. There's a late question from Maddie. Cool. All right, I think we are live. Okay, team. So, hi everybody, and thank you for joining us for episode 4 of the COVID Live series. I'm Jen Dugard. I am the founder of Body Beyond Baby and a Fitness Australia board member. And I'm joined by Fitness Australia CEO Barry Elvish. Hey Barry, how are you going?
Hi Jen, how are you?
Good. Thank you for having me host today. It's exciting.
Oh, it's good.
So let's kick off. Let's get straight into it and kick off with some of the questions that we've received. For anybody watching live, please make sure you submit any more questions that you might have in the comments, and we'll do our best to address them throughout the session. So let's kick off straight away with a question in New South Wales, and there's been lots of these questions around babies and creches and nannies and all that kind of thing. So in New South Wales, we really want to know about creches in a gym and if we can go ahead. So their creche is on site in an 8 square meters playpen, and they have rockers and bouncies that the babies sit on outside the playpen. So essentially they're on the gym floor. Can they cap the kids at 6 per session? Is social distancing required within the playpen? That's the main question.
Okay, so this has probably come from some of your
potentially.
I'm assuming. It's an interesting question, and it's one which is arising throughout all the states in Australia, and a lot of our gyms do run creche services, as you know. Some of our gyms also run childcare services under the occasional care model. So I guess the first point I would come back to you on an answer to that one is it depends on if the service is being offered as a creche, or what we used to know in the old days as childminding, or it's been offered under an occasional care model under the Child Care Act. If it's under the Child Care Act, it would be deemed an essential service. So it would basically be covered by the requirements that all childcare services have to operate under. And I'm aware that some gyms do operate under the Child Care Act. If it's a creche or a babysitting service, and I use that term not derogatively because I spent 12 years in early childhood, and I certainly understand the importance of creches and childcare and babysitting, all the rest of it. But if it's operating under what we would in the old days call a babysitting service, it's actually slipped through the radar. Most of the states haven't picked it up anywhere. So to give you an example, I went back to Queensland and asked them, where does this sit? And they realised, acknowledged that it slipped through the radar. They went and asked the Education Department, and I said, it's not Education Department, it's not childcare. So they're trying to find information out for us. But basically, if it's registered, it falls under the separate guidelines for an essential service. If it's not registered, then children's play areas are allowed to operate as per a COVID safe plan. But children do count towards the head count in the area unless it's a completely standalone area. So if it's in where the mums or dads are exercising, it's going to count in the head count. If it's in a separate facility with its own staff, it's going to be counted separately. But I would encourage the social distancing, even though it's not been defined, to still be followed, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. It can be super hard with children, obviously, to social distance, and then we're sending them to school. But I think, it's important for members to be doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Sticking on that topic, Barry, we'll go to nannies during mums and bubs sessions. Are they allowed? So what I'm envisaging, these are either indoor or outdoor facilities, and they normally have, say, maybe 100 meters away, they've got nannies on site with a playpen looking after the children while mum's exercising. Can they bring nannies back into the mix?
Well, if the nanny or the bub is in the class group, then they're going to count in that class group. If they are operating separately in a different group, then they would be a separate group.
Cool. Okay, so we can bring the nannies back, but they've got to be either in a separate group or stay within the head count if they're close together.
Correct.
Cool. It'd be interesting to work out what happens when mum goes over to collect the baby from the other group if Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I think what you're suggesting there is the potential for commingling.
Yeah.
And that's where it might push one of the group numbers over the agreed limit. But let me come back to that at another angle. We asked this very question to do with people with special needs. Back in the day, it was only one-on-one personal training out in the in parks and stuff, because as you know, Jen, it was one-on-one literally. And that got the question from, well, what about a person with special needs that comes with their carer? And the response we got from the government there was, well, common sense would apply. The carer would bring that client in to work with the personal trainer. The carer would then step back. So therefore, a very limited time they would have been exceeding the one-on-one, but common sense has to apply. So if mummy or dad is going to pick up bubs from the group, I think common sense applies. What would not be common sense would be for mum to stand around talking to the carer or talking to other mothers in that group, thus pushing the number over the minimum, so the maximum number.
Yeah, so you might have a system of whereby one mum goes over, gets her baby, leaves. The next one goes, gets her baby and leaves, and that would make a lot of sense.
Common sense just needs to apply.
Cool. Beautiful. I think that's probably a relief to lots of mums wanting to train with their babies around them.
And dads, Jen.
And dads. Well, yes. We've had dads train at our groups when we had mums and bubs in dads classes. Absolutely. All right. So let's move to Victoria. Is it okay to open unstaffed or not? If okay in Victoria, does this allow small training studios to offer client use as well as unstaffed, providing insurance covers it? If not, why is the Victorian government not specifically restricted that, and will Fitness Australia follow up so it's to be a collective reminder to the studios so that they're not closed down again, basically?
Yeah. So Victoria's an interesting situation in that we know they opened yesterday. We were concerned over the weekend that they may not have opened because of the COVID outbreaks down in that state. But they did go ahead and open, but they opened without a COVID safe plan, which is really almost bizarre in a way. So we are trying to get clarification from the Victorian Health Department as to what are the specific requirements. At the moment, as we understand it, gyms are supposed to operate under the general health guidelines, which are not always that clear. But to come back to your specific question, the advice we're getting is that they can open without staff.
Wow.
So they can open unstaffed as long as the facility can maintain a plan, COVID safe plan, even though that COVID safe plan requirements aren't quite clear yet. We're trying to keep obviously clarification on that. But the most important thing is to maintain the social distancing requirement, the 4 square metres. The facility must be able to ensure that there is no more than a maximum of 20 people through electronic means, so through the swipe card, etc., or if it's been booked in. So if it's unstaffed, they're going to have to make sure the electronic system can count and stop the door opening when it gets to 20. If the facility is larger than one, you would still be allowed to have 20 people on the premises unstaffed, as there's no one to police the zones. Now, what we are also hearing in Victoria is the police are being pretty diligent, shall we say, in visiting gyms to make sure the numbers are not exceeding 20. We've heard threats of fines, but no fines actually issued as yet, but they are being very diligent. And we've also heard anecdotally that the police have set up a specific group to go around checking gyms. So please do the right things down in Victoria. Yeah,
let's take those warnings as a reminder not to do the wrong thing. That's the last thing we need. In sticking in with Victoria, is equipment restricted in Victoria?
No, there's no restrictions on how. So the answer I've got that one, assuming that we've interpreted this question correctly.
Yep.
Is there's no restrictions on how close different equipment can be, provided you've got that social distancing. So that means, and when my gym I go to up here in New South Wales, in Sydney, hadn't, at the last time I went there, hadn't actually imposed the social distancing. They have now. So they have their treadmills lined up. They have disabled some, and where they haven't disabled, they have a sign saying, please do not use this one if one adjacent is being used. So the main thing in Victoria is to make sure that the social distancing has the 1.5 metres is being adhered to. And the sharing of equipment is to be minimised, disinfect and clean between uses. And there is advice around advising use of equipment that is material in nature that may be impregnated with the virus if someone was ill. So just to clarify that a little bit, because I'm not quite sure what that actually means, we'll put a little bit more detail on that online to answer that question specifically. But there are no restrictions in equipment in terms of except the social distancing.
Okay, beautiful. In New South Wales, are the social distancing rules being more relaxed by the end of this month? So I guess July the 1st.
There is a review at the end of the month, which is with an expected relaxation from July 1. Yes, that we're anticipating that. But I think we have to overlay all of these questions, Jen, with the possibility that if Victoria goes ballistic with their outbreaks, I think all state governments will pause possibly the next stage of relaxations. So if Victoria can get their outbreaks under control very quickly, I think those restrictions will go ahead. Sorry, the relaxations will go ahead as planned. If they don't, I think a lot of the health departments will get quite nervous and put things on hold for a while. So we just need to keep fingers crossed Victoria does the right thing and gets it sorted as quickly as possible.
Absolutely, agreed. And I think that's for having business owners prepare themselves to move in and out of restrictions fluidly and to continually communicate to their clients so that they're, maintaining their businesses as much as possible without being too reactive. Okay, so in Victoria again, how many people are allowed at the moment in an outdoor boot camp?
20.
20. Super simple. 20, including nannies and children, if you're asking.
If they're in the group.
Yeah. Okay, moving to Queensland, when can gyms in Queensland, okay, similar question to Victoria, but when can gyms in Queensland operate unstaffed and 24 hours? And what restrictions will there be in stage 3?
Okay, so we put up our recommendations to the Queensland Government on Friday. There was supposed to be a meeting today to actually review those. That's been postponed until Thursday, partly to get some guidance on the creches I mentioned before, but also hopefully to get the okay. So viewers may not be aware, but our COVID safe plan was the first one to get approved in Queensland, and we think our proposal for stage 3 will be the first one to get approved. At this stage, the changes are due to come into place on the 24th of July, but they are talking about bringing them forward if things go well during stage 2, and so far they are. But of course, we do need to reflect on those comments I've just made about Victoria.
Yep.
So our recommendations in stage 3 is that the unstaffing will be okay in stage 3. And so basically it'll be social distancing, unstaffing, and apart from that, that's where we're up to at the moment.
Okay, beautiful. All right, let's stick in Queensland for a little bit longer. The question is, why are Queensland restrictions set to 7 metres squared to work out capacity in gyms when everywhere else it's 4 metre squares, or in some states 2 metre squares?
Well, yeah, so the question could be revised, why are the other states 2 metres when the other states are 4 metres and 7 metres and so
absolutely.
on? And the answer is very simple, because we are dealing in a federated nation, and each state has its own guidelines. What is quite frustrating from our point of view is that you would hope that the medical advice they're making their decisions on is based on the same medical advice in each state, but quite clearly, I guess the appetite for risk is different in every state. So although the advice or the information that's being used is hopefully the same, those particular health departments have different risk appetites. So there's no other explanation than that. We do think that in Queensland, the 7 square metres may be reviewed in stage 3, but at the moment, that's where it's at. We put out a press release last week before the Victorian actually went ahead with their announcement, calling for some consistency across all states, because for those gym organisations that run services across all different states, they're trying to juggle different requirements, different staffing and different do when their members have to book in, not book in, are they capped, are they uncapped, and so on. So it is very, very frustrating. We understand that. But we share the frustration. But the bottom line is we are dealing with human beings, and human beings are interpreting health advice separately and differently.
Yeah. It's that just do as you're told kind of thing, isn't it? Like until there is the consistency, try and just do as you're, rather than questioning it all the time.
Having said that, Jen, I think that all the different pieces are starting to move into some sort of, I guess, consistency across the board. I mean, the Western Australia, South Australia, Northern Territory are ahead of the other states. Queensland's ahead, well, actually, probably New South Wales ahead of Queensland, even though New South Wales came after Queensland. Queensland will probably catch up with the restrictions getting relaxed on the 24th of July, if not earlier. Victoria is the one that we have to watch and monitor very closely, because not only are they the latest and have the most severe restrictions, they have the potential to impact all the other states as well.
Yeah, I guess especially New South Wales with us driving straight in. All right, so we've got some later questions, and then we've got some questions that have been added today, quite a few actually. So there's a question: is fitness boxing and pad holding okay in New South Wales? The person that asked the question said she assumed it wasn't until the 1.5 metre social distancing rule was lifted, but clarification would be great.
Yeah, and this is one of those ones which is not clear, unfortunately, but our advice would be that it is not okay at the moment until they remove the 1.5 metres. As we were discussing before, Jen, if you were holding a boxing pad at arm's length and you were making contact at arm's length, theoretically you'd make the 1.5 metres from face to face. But as you quite quickly pointed out, people move their face in as they're boxing. It's what happens. And so the 1.5 metres could not be maintained. So at this stage, we do not believe it is possible.
Yeah, cool. And then a late question from Queensland: can a netted netball court be classed as a separate room for teaching, or do we need to have solid walls?
You do not need to have solid walls. So the netball court, provided that it's sort of at least it's lined off, and it would be just because it's got lines on the court, would classify as a class space.
Cool, beautiful. All right, let's lead now into some questions that have come during, I guess, during our chat. So in New South Wales, following on from the boxing workout, when will boxing pad workouts be allowed? So I have an assumption, but I'm going to let you answer.
Well, they'll be allowed when we get some some clarification and/or increased relaxations
on the social distancing. Yeah.
On the social distancing. Yeah.
Yeah. In Victoria, small group training is capped at 10 per session. Some companies are running 2 10 per session, so it's 20 per room. Under Victorian legislation, can we run 2 times 10 people per session in one room?
If you have sufficient space and those groups are separated. Now, this is where it gets interesting, Jen, because we did hear initially that markings on the floor were acceptable as a separation. But we learned yesterday that some of the police visits are saying that is not acceptable. You must have a bollard and some sort of rope or tape or something to actually physically distance rather than just a visual distancing on the floor. So I would encourage people to err on the side of caution and put up some bollards or tape or rope or something just to separate those areas off.
Yeah, to make sure people are not commingling.
It's commingling that's the issue.
Yep. Beautiful. Into Queensland, when can we have more than 20 people per class?
Hopefully in stage 3.
Beautiful. Good straight answer. In all states, who cleans equipment after each use? Is it okay for it to be the clients doing it as they finish, or do the staff need to do it, or can it be a combination of both?
Yeah, this is a really interesting one. A very interesting one, in fact. And let's be honest here. We'd like to think that our members would do the right thing and do all the cleaning before and after, but the reality of the situation is that doesn't happen. And yep. We know that when we go to a gym, we see people who don't even bother to clean before they use it. I've also seen in the gym I go to, the 3 staff sitting behind the counter and just sort of checking their iPhones, etc. So should the staff be doing it? My recommendation, and if I was running a gym, I'd be saying to my staff, this is part of your job description now. You should be going around cleaning the equipment, but while you're doing that, you should also be reminding clients to clean the equipment. So it becomes a double-pronged attack, I guess. It is not realistic to rely on members to do it, even with signage. Even if you give the actual cleaning tools in their hand, I don't think you can guarantee it's going to happen. We need to get the staff doing it, to demonstrate it, so that their members see it. Those staff can also remind members while they're travelling around, so it becomes more of a habit pretty quickly. but it is unrealistic to expect members to be doing it across the board.
Yeah, so you need those staff like watching everyone in a gym and then going to the equipment afterwards. A continuation on from that. So let's say you've got a group of like 12 people in a class. The class finishes, there's cleaning equipment at each station. Is it okay then to expect the members to spend 10 minutes if you're watching everyone clean? Would that be acceptable, or their staff still need to go in and clean?
No, well, I would think the instructor, before that class has started, should go through and say, after the class, we're going to do this. If the tools, equipment is here.
Yep.
That instructor would actually watch it taking place and probably get involved in that process as well, because let's also be honest, a lot of people wouldn't know how to clean equipment if they're not shown how to do it properly, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And so this is an educational process for everybody, but it's not unreasonable to expect in a class particularly that those class members clean up after they've done it, but I'd be encouraging the instructor to get in and do it themselves, role model it.
Yeah, agreed. Cool. Okay, in Victoria, with almost a name and shame approach the media is taking to identify COVID clusters and subsequent closures, will Fitness Australia be able to offer support to ensure our businesses don't get dragged through the mud if we do need to close due to positive COVID testing? Great question.
Yeah, just read that question out again.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in. Okay, so basically in Victoria, they're naming and shaming media-wise to identify COVID clusters and where they're happening, and then venues that are closing. If that was to happen, would Fitness Australia be able to offer support to ensure businesses don't get dragged through the mud if they need to close due to testing?
Okay, so this comes back to the bigger question, doesn't it, in terms of how do we get the cowboys out of the sector?
Yep.
So Fitness Australia would have no hesitation, and I would have no hesitation personally, supporting a gym that is demonstrating best practice and following really good hygiene and sanitation regimes. However, if I was aware of a gym that wasn't doing that and they were, I guess, pulled up in the media, I'd be very reluctant to get involved in supporting that gym, because at the end of the day, by supporting poor practice, I'm actually underwriting that practice, and it's at the expense of those who are trying to do the right thing. So no, I wouldn't support poor practice. I absolutely, in this association, absolutely will support good practice, and we'll definitely be arguing against any, I guess, sector closures, because there's 3 or 4 or half a dozen or even more bad operators out there bringing the whole industry's reputation down. We'll be arguing very strongly against that. But again, this comes back to the whole decision that you as a board member, Jen, are going to have to be talking about on Friday, about do we go down the path of actually becoming a bit stronger in what we do with the bad operators in the sector. Yeah,
I think to add my 2 cents to what you've just said, Barry, I think there's the personal responsibility of the gym. Treat it as an insurance claim. Like if you're gonna, like if an insurance company came to you and said, what have you done in order to make sure best practice happened, and then this incident still happened, could you prove that you followed all of Fitness Australia's guidelines, you've got a COVID safe plan, and it was just one of those things, versus not being able to prove the things that you've done to cover your own backside, I guess.
Yeah. And if the media actually are in there filming bad practice, it makes it pretty hard to defend it.
Yeah, it's like that when you're checking clients' technique and you're making sure that they're doing the right thing. Imagine someone has a camera watching you training your clients, and are you giving the right instruction and making sure everyone's doing the right thing all the time? So imagine someone's always watching. Okay, so same person, different question. I'm in Melbourne. I'm in a Melbourne hotspot in Hume, and a local lockdown is feeling imminent. Has Fitness Australia considered ways to assist fitness businesses through localised lockdown, as public trust in social interaction will need to be established at the end of it?
Yeah, so I'm not sure in that scenario, Jen, if there's a lockdown in that particular suburb or community, if that means the gym closes. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure what that actually means. But what if the gym can stay open, or if the gym does have to close, we'd be very much suggesting that gym uses our COVID safe plan, because it is actually the gold standard as confirmed by the Victorian Health Department. And then we would absolutely go out and say to the community and the media that it is safe for people to come back to this gym, because this gym is adhering to and following international best practice for safety, health and welfare of their staff, but also most importantly their members. So yes, we would, but I'm not sure what the Victorian government is thinking about when they say lockdown, if that means closing of businesses or just confining people who live in that region to that region.
Yeah.
Either way, we'd be helping good practice, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Another reason to make sure you're upholding best practice across the board, I think.
Yeah.
In New South Wales, how much space do you need between groups in an open area to run 2 classes? Oh, gosh.
It's the square meterage and the social distancing. Then you can run as many classes as you like in that square meterage.
In an open space. Yeah, cool. Is there a clarification that you can offer on a space versus a zone for Victoria?
No, we'd have to take that one on notice, I think, and answer that one on our social media. I'm assuming that they're one and the same thing, but I don't want to give the wrong advice.
Yep, perfect answer. Well, we're still going. Okay, so I think this might have been answered before, but I'm going to address it again. It's on the baby kind of topic. So is there any also there's no change on the stance of babies being excluded from numbers. In Victoria, we can have only 5 mums in class wearing their baby in a carrier. We need to get these mums out of the house. I agree with that, but handing over to you.
Well, no, and I guess this is part of the problem with not having COVID safe guidelines in Victoria, except the general health guidelines. And as they currently state, as I understand it, the way I interpret it, if you've got 5 mums or dads and they've got their bubs in pouches, that's 10.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Because they're from the same house. So it would be nice if we could have double the number and if the babies and mums are in their same bubble, but we got to wait.
I mean, but just thinking laterally, Jen, if you had 6, could not one of the mums or dads look after children in a separate space, zone, area, call it what you like, and then alternate between the groups? I mean, theoretically, that should be possible.
Yeah, so I guess that's either the mums or dads helping or getting the nanny in to help. Yeah, beautiful. All right, couple more questions, unless more come through. So in Victoria, this is interesting. In Victoria, doesn't a client cleaning contradict being able to run unsupervised gyms? So who's there to ensure it's actually being done so clusters don't start from the gyms?
No one.
No one. The video.
So, and I guess this is where it's very confusing that they come out with very strict restrictions in Victoria, but then allow unstaffed. And this is the problem Australia-wide that we've confronted with all the health departments, because they ask that very question. How can you guarantee that your members are going to clean equipment? And of course, we can't guarantee it.
Yeah.
If they're on video and they're not cleaning equipment, well, what do we do? Do we then, when I say we, does the gym then ban that member from coming back, except in staffed hours or whatever? It's just not possible unless the gym, I guess, was prepared to pay for a cleaner to come in periodically, but not be there full time. So if it's unstaffed for say 10 hours, bring a cleaner in every 4 hours or something to just go through and clean all the equipment. But it's one of those wicked questions. There is no easy solution to it.
Yeah.
You know, the gym can provide all the equipment, provide all the signs, but we know, particularly my gender, unfortunately, and the younger ones of my gender, they don't clean stuff.
Yeah. Hopefully we're going to have a lot of better cleaners out there.
Yeah.
A lot more people washing their hands, obviously. Okay, so I've got 2 more questions. One's just popped up on one of my my feeds. So in Victoria, what about the bad instructors? What will Fitness Australia do about this? Or what can we do about this? Oh, there's more questions coming. Who can we report them to? The group fitness manager? Or where do bad instructors get reported to, basically?
Okay, well, there's multiple levels to this question. I mean, I'm not sure who this is coming from. If it's coming from a gym member, I'd be reporting that individual to the club manager or the facility manager. If it's the facility manager that's the problem, I'd be reporting it to, if it's part of a franchise or whatever, I'd be reporting it to head office. So basically scaling up the line. If you're getting no satisfaction there, I'd be reporting it to Fitness Australia. But the thing is, if that gym or that staff member is not a member of Fitness Australia, there's not a lot we can do, to be quite honest, about making them improve their behaviours or their attitudes and so on. But this comes back to that question again. I know it sounds like a broken record, Jen, but we really need to do something as a sector so these sort of questions don't arise, because it's very clear what a person will do if there is poor practice, either being demonstrated by a fellow staff member, because this could be a fellow staff member, let's not forget, or a manager, or whatever, how we can actually address this, because we are not going to get taken seriously. We're not going to get considered as part of an essential service for allied health until we get our own game together.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I guess if it was in the COVID space, you could report it to your local police station if someone wasn't doing the right thing.
You could, but unless you've got evidence, I think the police are unlikely to do anything about it. But they may come and do a visit and issue a warning, have a complaint.
Yeah, cool. Okay, we've got a couple more. So one question popped up. So I guess this is in line with children in sporting activities versus children coming to training sessions. Why are kids 18 years and younger considered unlimited in groups? That's a Victoria question.
Yes, I don't know the answer to that. We're going to have to take that one on notice and post the answer online, Jen.
Yep.
Again, I mean, I've got some opinions, but they might not be the right answers.
Yeah. We've all got opinions, don't we? Cool. In New South Wales, can family members train with contact between each other? Or do they need to keep the 4 square metres apart? This is interesting, isn't it? If you relate it back to that boxing question, could you get 2 family members boxing, or do they need to do best practice because it's in a business environment and stay apart?
I would suggest if they want to do training as family members, they do it in their own home.
Yep.
Or in their own backyard or their own shed or whatever it is. But if they go into a public or retail space, which is what a gym is, they must abide by the restrictions that apply to everybody else.
Yeah, beautiful. I think unless we get anything else sent through right now, that is us for today. We answered a lot. Do you have anything else to add in, Barry? Oh, wait.
No, the only thing I'd say, Jen, is that it's great, even though it's complicated, to have Victoria open yesterday, because now all the states are back in action again. And if we cast our mind back to March 23rd, when we were shut down, which seems years ago now, it's been such an interesting time. When we were shut down in March, we were told no gym is going to open until September, the earliest. No gym is going to open until after winter. And now here we are at the end of the first month of winter and every state is open. Fingers crossed that we can continue to stay open and see those relaxations take place. But I'd really like to, I guess, applaud all the gym businesses and staff who've been able to work through this, through virtual online programs, whatever, to actually keep their members engaged. And they've been very patient, and hopefully we can keep them open. We can get back to some degree of normality sooner rather than later. But the new normality is going to be different to what it was before COVID. It's never going to go back to the same thing again. And these are going to be really interesting discussions as an industry association and as a sector as we adapt to the new normality moving forward.
Absolutely. I've really loved watching people adapt and thrive in a different environment. I think it's testament to the human spirit, I think.
It is.
I do have a couple more questions. Now we did that lovely wrap up. So from the 1st of July, with indoor gyms in New South Wales, martial arts and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and contact being allowed, is the 1 person per 4 metre squared rule only, or is there a limited numbers per group training? For example, could it be 20? Did that make sense?
It did, and I'm just trying to think through the logistics of that question. So we're talking about contact sport.
Yeah, martial arts.
Martial arts, which clearly is contact, then how do you maintain 4 square metres? Doesn't seem to quite stack up. So
I wonder if it's like they can contact, but you can only have the capacity of people within that rule. Does that make sense? That's how.
Okay, yes. So, sorry, yes, that would be how I would interpret that. So if you've got 80 square metres, you can have 20 people.
Yeah.
In that 80 square metres, and yes, they can have contact. That would make sense. Yes, sorry.
Yeah. No, that's just my interpretation too.
No, I think that's right. I think that makes sense.
And then just to finish up, can we please go over the 24/7 in Victoria clarification again?
Okay, so there is no written or guideline saying that 24/7 facilities cannot operate.
Okay, that was simple. Very, very simple. Cool. So Thank you, Barry, for allowing me to jump on and host and ask all the questions today. I always love jumping on and having a chat with you. And I hope everyone who turned up today got some value. You got all of your questions answered. And don't forget that we'll be back for episode 5 next week at 1 o'clock. Same day, same time. Beautiful.
Great channel. Thanks, Jen.
Thanks, Barry. Have a good afternoon. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.